Hi, everyone. I'm Key Williams. I'm a research assistant with Shen Labs, and I'm here with Professor Belfi. Um, if you wanted to go ahead and introduce yourself, just name, occupation, and any other relevant details.
Hi, first name is totally fine. I'm Amy Belfi. For 3 more days, an assistant professor, and then I'll be an associate professor of psychology at Missouri University of Science and Technology. Um, I don't know if you want any more than that.
Uh, no, that's okay. I mean, we'll just go into it with the first question.
Cool.
So with your current occupation of being a neuroaestheticist, what career path led you to that job?
Right, that's a good question. So I got my undergraduate degree in psychology, bachelor's in psychology, and then I did my PhD in neuroscience at the University of Iowa. And I was given a lot of freedom to kind of determine what my research was going to be on. I joined like a really big lab that had kind of a broad research focus, and my PhD advisor basically left it up to me what actual specific topic I wanted to study. So in our lab, we worked with people with focal brain damage, with lesions to different parts of the brain, and studied like a variety of different cognitive functionings that were associated with brain damage to different areas. So I always liked music growing up, always performed, played piano and performed in choirs like all through college. And so I had, started reading a little bit of the literature on music and neuroscience. And I was like, this seems really interesting. And what really like kind of captivated my interest was this phenomenon of music evoked autobiographical memories and how we can hear a song that just like seemingly immediately takes us back to a moment from our life. So that's what I started doing in my PhD research. And I also worked on something called musical anhedonia, which is people who don't like music, actually. So I did that during my PhD, and then I did my postdoc at NYU, and that's where my kind of aesthetics focus started. And that was like a really cool, interesting position. I worked with different faculty who specialized in different topics. So a literary scholar, a visual psychophysicist, an auditory cognitive neuroscientist, and we were looking at aesthetic responses to poetry, visual arts, and music. And so poetry and visual art was something that I had never really thought about before. And so I got to do a bunch of really cool and interesting studies, kind of comparing these different types of art forms. And so now at my faculty job, I've actually kind of continued both of those lines of research. Like my primary stuff is still focusing on music and memory and emotion, but I've also continue doing work looking at, why do we like certain types of poetry or music or things like that. So that's kind of my life story, I guess.
No, that's amazing and extremely fascinating. I'm actually taking a course on neuroaesthetics this upcoming fall, so I
Oh,
get a glimpse
cool.
into your world this fall semester. So,
That's awesome.
what would you say that your day-to-day life as a neuroaesthetics professor and researcher looks like?
Yeah, I really love being in academia because every day is kind of different and I get a lot of freedom and flexibility to choose what I do on any given day. So I have like a pretty moderate teaching load, I would say, to low I teaching load, I guess. So my university is like an R2 university. It's like not the top research tier, but it's a research university. And so I typically would teach 2 classes a semester, but since I have grant funding, I teach 1 class a semester now for the next couple of years. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's when I teach. So I'm either teaching 1 or 2 classes depending on the semester. And I really like being in the classroom, and I really love teaching. Honestly, that's a big part of why I went into this career. I went to a liberal arts college for my undergrad and like just loved the kind of like community that was at that type of college. And like, I just gained a lot from my professors in my undergrad. So I knew I really wanted to go into a job where I would do some teaching. So yeah, on my teaching days, that's when I'm working on that. And then my other days, am doing stuff ranging from like analyzing data. Today, I submitted reviews of 2 papers. I'm looking at proofs for a manuscript that I just got today. I'm going to be working on a book review, maybe like getting another study up and running. Another thing is that like my lab is almost exclusively undergrads. And so that means I have more of like a hand in everything, I think, than faculty who are at like more research intensive universities are. So like I do write grants, but that's just a part of my job rather than like a big part of my job. So it's kind of nice. I still get to like, be doing lab stuff, be analyzing data myself, be writing manuscripts myself. So yeah, it's a mix of things.
Yeah. Do you have the more, I guess, less grant writing extensive, I guess, workload than other people that I've interviewed? And I'm actually happy to see it. I enjoy that when researchers work with undergrads as an undergrad in psychology myself. Um,
It's like my favorite part of the job. I like have amazing students and they're so fun and awesome. Yeah, it's why I specifically wanted to get a job at a university that was undergrad focus. I mean, my university on the whole has a lot of PhD students, but not in my department. And so
mhm.
that's kind of why I chose this position. I just really value doing research with undergrad students and getting them that experience early on in their kind of like academic career.
Absolutely. And for other students and anybody else watching this, what advice would you give them about pursuing a career in neuroaesthetics?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing about so interestingly, when we talk about neuroaesthetics and music cognition, I kind of like straddle these two like academic communities, and they're like not as connected as I would like. That's like part of my personal kind of like goals. So I'm editor at psychology, co-editor at Psychology of Aesthetics, Creativity in the Arts, which is like a aesthetics and creativity journal. I've been trying to like encourage my music cognition friends to like submit to this journal because those fields are kind of aesthetics is always focused more on like visual stuff.
Mm,
Um, but anyway, to encouraging students, like I think especially music cognition had like a very robust community of people and we're all like very friendly and it's just the best people ever. So like if you're an undergrad and you're interested in music cognition, the Society for Music Cognition and Perception has a website that has a map of all the labs that do this type of work. Like email somebody who's at your university or close by and ask if they're looking for research assistants. And I used to think it on Twitter, and now it's like X, I guess, is what it's called. And however many people are on it anymore, so I don't know if that's good advice, but that used to be a good place for like finding community. But yeah, I would say it's a very friendly. We're all kind of like it used to be seen as this really niche area, and it's not quite anymore. But I think we all kind of like felt like we made it through, like doing this area of research that wasn't as always as like respected as it is now. So I feel like we're like a very welcoming and open community. So I just encourage people to like not hesitate to reach out to people doing this type of work.
yeah, absolutely. And now after doing this extensive research, and now after doing this extensive research into music cognition, and how would you say that your view of music and art have been impacted?
That's a good question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that if like doing research on this topic has changed my perspective on like enjoying art myself. I don't think it really has changed it, but I do notice like so I like study autobiographical memory. So I will definitely notice like if I'm like out in public and I hear something that triggers memory, I'm like, oh, that was a music evoked autobiographical memory. And I like almost kind of like scientifically think about my own thoughts. Like, I don't know. So I do just when I'm encountering art or music, like I think I maybe have like a deeper perspective on like what I'm more conscious of like my own thought processes when I'm engaging with these things. But I don't think it's like changed my ability to like appreciate art or anything like that.
Thank you, Professor Belfi, with having and being a part of this interview with spreading neuroscience and subfields of neuroscience with me. And I really appreciate all of your thoughtful comments and responses to my question.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun to chat.